Let's stand up from sea to shining sea, hand in hand, arm in arm, united we are proud, free and strong. Let freedom across America. Let freedom across America.
All right, I want to welcome everybody to the Zoo Podcast. Today we're honored to have with us General Mike Flynn. We're going to bring him on, and I know a lot of people know a little bit about General Flynn out there, but I tell you what, he has a career that started being a paratrooper with the 82nd Airborne and ended with him occupying some of the highest offices in the military in the land. And General Flynn, it's an honor to have you on here today. Welcome to the Zoo Podcast.
Thanks, Jeffrey. I'm sitting outside of a hotel right now in Meridian, Idaho. We're going to show this film here in about 2 hours down the road a little bit. I just got in here this morning, and this is our 14th city on a nationwide tour. I just listening to your intro music there, talking about coast to coast, from sea to shining sea. I mean, we started in Florida. We just did 2 events up in the great Northwest Washington State, Bow and Spokane, and now we're crossing the top of the country. We've already been across the Midwest all the way through to Arizona, and then 2 events in California.
Wow.
I mean, it's just amazing. And we're going to, we've had a couple of big cities like Nashville and Las Vegas, but other places like Wichita, Santa Barbara, Bow, Washington, Meridian, Idaho. And it's really to go to places where, when we chose these places, we chose them because I said, I want to go to places where these big rallies, these big people don't, the big names don't go, to let people know that, hey, we care about you, and just trying to get out there and serve the country still, in this way, and using this film, Flynn delivered the truth, whatever the cost, to do that. And people have just been remarkable. I mean, just really, really helpful. I mean, incredible level of support, love, and I felt that in my time in the military with some of the great units I served with, especially in places like the 82nd Airborne, and some of my days in the special operations world. But boy, I feel it now with the American people, and it's just wonderful.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I came to the premiere of that movie down in Venice. I'm about 30 minutes away in the Sarasota, Bradenton area. And by the way, I wrote that song you heard. I share that love of country that you have. And I'm gonna tell you something interesting here. Even being very focused on what's going on in our country, I did not know the extent of the story, truly, of what happened to you. And we had a weaponization of government that took place. And I would urge anybody, after General Flynn's off, because we have limited time, I'm going to tell everybody where to get this movie, because you can get it everywhere right now. But I think everybody needs to see this. So what brought this movie about? How did that get started?
Yeah, well, and thanks, Jeffrey. I mean, people can stream it now. You can rent it for $4.99, I think, on a bunch of different sites. But I mean, I just felt like, because of everything going on in the country, I knew that eventually, I'd have to write this story and I'd have to tell this story. And I just felt I didn't want to wait any longer, because it is an important part of U.S. history, and frankly, world history, given the direction that the United States of America has taken. And when they were able to take me out, which they did, and because you saw the movie, that it's not just, the Obama administration has a lot of accountability to be had, but there's also some people in the, we call it the uniparty, or certainly the establishment, right there in the White House. But what they did was they came after my family, and I think my family and I, we, as you see in the movie, and you may have met some of my siblings. But we're one of these families where it's like we fight like the Dickens inside the house, but when if you mess with us on the outside, and they did, and I just think that our family came together in such a strong way. Our Irish heritage, probably part of it. Our love of country, our service to this nation. I mean, I have grandfathers that served in World War One. I have one of my grandfathers served in World War One and World War Two. My father served in World War Two, Korean War. I got an older brother who was Vietnam era, and then from that point on, pretty much me and my other brother served and continue to serve. And most people don't know because I've tried to keep him safe from all this mess. I have a son who serves in the military today, and served three tours in Afghanistan, one of which I was there at the time. So I mean, people, the media just loves that soundbite. He's a traitor. He's
Right.
Committed treason, all that bullshit. And so I felt like I needed to tell the story, and I didn't want it to be a woe is me. I wanted it to be about America and about family and about faith. And that's really, I didn't know how people were going to respond to it, to be honest with you, Jeffrey, but the response has been humbling and remarkable. And to a person that we have spoken to, and there's been people that have from all ideological walks that have come in to watch it. We've had audiences no less than 300 people at each viewing. We had, I think, 800, 900 people at Venice, and we had 500 the other night in Bow, Washington. We had another 500 down in Santa Barbara. So we've had great audience turnout, and everybody's the testimonials. You can go to the website flynnmovie.com and look at some of the testimonials. But like I said, it's streaming. People can get it to rent. I mean, I don't watch anything else on TV these days but movies. That I like. My wife and I will sit down and watch a movie. I don't watch news. I might catch a sports game because I know somebody or I like the team, but that's it. I don't watch this stuff anymore. I'm looking for the truth. I'm out here fighting for it. We're in a tough time right now in this country, and I'm just, I'm traveling around this country because I just felt like now was the time to get this movie out. So I made that decision well over a year ago for the timing, and I think this is a really important time. And I think the message right now will resonate because people are hungry in this country.
Now let me tell you this too. We see the big stories. We see what happened to you. We see what happened to Roger Stone, but we also see what's happening to housewives, that are standing up because their kids are getting taught transgenderism and things like that in school.
Exactly.
Or we've seen 11 Christians that are being charged for praying, outside of an abortion clinic. So I agree with President Trump. I think they're coming for all of us. So you telling this story out here, I think it's really important because there's a big segment of America that I don't think knows this is going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that look at America, and I'm just talking about grassroots, great people, Americans, the entire demographic landscape of America. And I love people. I mean, I'm sitting outside of a hotel right now, and this is one of these doors that goes into like the generator or the water heater, just because it's a nice day. I'm trying to get some fresh air and sunshine. And a couple people came up to me while I was waiting here just to say hello. I mean, I love people. And I think people in this country, we take for granted what we have. We don't know really what suffering means. People that have served in the military can understand a little bit about what suffering means, but I don't think the American people really understand what suffering means. And boy, I'm going to tell you, we turn into a socialist nation. We're going to learn what suffering means quickly. And I don't believe that there's that enough people realize that we could actually do that. We could actually turn from being a experiment in democracy called a constitutional republic to the United Socialist States of America overnight. And I'm a student of history, world history, American history. I've studied our enemies overseas. I know more about our domestic landscape than 99% of American people. And I'm telling you, folks, to this audience, we have got to wake up to what is happening and what our sort of tyrannical, overreaching government, the weaponization of government is doing. And you're right to bring up moms. You're right to bring up, moms trying to raise their kids, which is mostly, that's what's raising kids these days around our country are moms.
Right.
And they're going to these school boards. They're demanding change in the public school system that we are all paying for, and the public school system isn't doing it for them. So
Right.
they're either taking them and doing homeschooling, which is on the rise, a rapid rise in this country, or I see, and I've met a lot of moms on this journey that have run for school board, and now they're on the school board. One woman in Wichita told me that one of the greatest points of satisfaction of running for school board and winning was the day that they fired the superintendent, because the superintendent patronized her. She told me, she said, when she went up there to complain to the superintendent, he patronized her, patted her on her little mom head, and said, "Honey, you don't know what you're talking about. Now we know, we educators know how to educate children.
Right.
Thank you very much for your interest. Go home."
They
And
talk
that
down
just-
to them. Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And she let me have it. And what she did, and she flipped the entire school board in her district from 2 conservatives and 5 liberals to 7. She said she went out and found other moms. And she said, we have got to do this.
Right.
That is what encourages me. That is what makes me feel like, God, there's enough warriors out there, because that's a warrior right there that made that. And she said that they sat there for the first school board hearing, and the first act they did was they fired that superintendent, and she was the one that delivered the message. That to me is like such a powerful testimony to America. And what
and that's
Americans
that
can do
thing
if
that
they get involved.
You talk about that. Go local, get involved. But I have a 30,000 foot view question here for you. If it was 1787 and you were one of the 55 people in Philadelphia that were writing the Constitution, they had just come off a war, that it was a peace treaty 4 years prior. I know they were thinking about secrecy and battlefield secrets and all that, but we didn't address this. Is there anything you think that we could do constitutionally to address this overclassification of everything, the secrecy going on, because it's being used and turned against the American people now?
Yeah, I think that one of the things in a society like ours, again, a constitutional republic, because the progressive left will say that we are, we're a danger to democracy. Well, yeah, we have democratic ideals, and I call it an experiment, but we're really a constitutional republic. So the idea of transparency in our system of government is paramount. We have to be transparent. The government has to be transparent. What has happened is because we have either overclassified, or we have said so many things. Well, you can't see this, you can't see that, and then when it suddenly comes out, because organizations like Judicial Watch, do a FOIA and they sue for documents, and the documents come out, and you're like, well, why the hell was that? Why is it still redacted, or why was that not revealed to the American people? It's because they're trying to hide their deception. They're trying to hide their lies, and that has to end. And I do think that, in our system of government, there's really only one person that can do a lot of that, and that's the president of the United States. And I think that the president of the United States, in this case, even under Trump, with Trump, and I'm a big fan. I want to see Trump get back into office. God help us if he doesn't.
Right.
I don't know where we'll end up, but even with Trump, because I don't think, like I said at the end of the movie, he didn't know the ways of Washington. I mean, that's why they had to get rid of a guy like me, because you can sit there and go, look,
yes,
there's no reason why we have to keep the Kennedy files, wrapped up anymore. There's no reason why a guy like Julian Assange, who's a journalist, why don't we, get him, so where he can be able to speak freely?
Right.
Why do we have all these FISA courts that are, and these investigations that are withholding evidence? I mean, there's so much corruption in our government. And then the overclassification, which I know a lot about, the overclassification of things where the intelligence community, particularly the CIA, can stay up secret on something.
Right.
And they have no business doing that, but they do it so they can say, well, it's classified. There's nothing to see here. All of that has to end if we're going to overcome this idea of trust, because we the people in this country, I can tell you, I mean, the trust in institutions from all branches of government, even our military, are the American people, at least the ones I talk to, are starting to tell me, which really concerns me, that that they really don't trust the leadership in our military anymore.
Right.
And that
right.
just kills me to no end, because we have to have trust. Trust in our armed forces is one of probably the most paramount things for the American people to have. And I think this administration is trying to destroy that, because, like Andrew Breitbart used to say, politics is downstream from culture. If you change the culture of this country, which is what they're trying to do, and they started with the education system decades ago in our children, and that's why, we were just talking about moms, and moms getting involved in, I call it local action, national impact. I mean, we can't have this secrecy any longer. We have to have a transparency in our government, because you know what our founders taught us? Our founders taught us to be accountable. They were accountable to themselves. They were accountable to the American people. And the other thing that they taught us, Jeffrey, is they taught us to be courageous. They weren't without fear. Fear exists in all of us, but they were very courageous men, and they withstood the test of time,
Right.
and the test of history, but they were also accountable to each other, and they demonstrated those two character traits, right? Courage and accountability. And we need more of that in our leaders. I'm so sick of the political people in our country. They're weak.
They're out of control. Also, right?
God, it's yeah. And then
well, you mentioned this. You mentioned this. You mentioned this in the movie about Sun Tzu's Art of War, and about how critical information is, and I think that it's been weaponized against the American people. Yeah. Should there be something similar to like a constitutional oath that when media is breaking with our Constitution, that they're actually propagandizing the public with bad information that's against our form of government? I know there's a slippery slope here that we could go down, but is there something we could do that would hold media accountable?
Yeah, I'm such a believer in free speech.
Yeah.
And free thought.
Me too.
And free thought, right? Free thought. So, I mean, I can look at things and make my own judgment about information. I can, I've learned that there's a big difference between judgment and discernment. And I think that what we have to do as citizens and as a faith-based society, we have to discern better about, the kinds of things that we take into our lives, I guess. But our judgment about information, if you don't like something, turn it off, right?
Yeah.
I mean, pornography is in the eye of the beholder, right? I mean,
yeah.
So I'm very cautious when it comes to, we have to shut down, these TikTok or, there's that debate. I am very concerned about that when it comes to a society that allows for free thinking, free speech, free thought. People just have to make their own decisions. Now, if the media, like I can tell you, I was looking at some stuff this morning about how these mainstream media markets, I won't mention them just because they'll sue you or sue me, but they're all losing. They're losing market. They're diving. They're doing a tailspin dive.
They are,
and they're losing. And it's podcasters, independent journalists, like the Jeffrey Sisk show and other podcasters out there. This rise of citizen journalism, because you gather a loyal audience because you're talking about things that are honest. You're a very authentic guy. I mean, you have a way about you, and you're talking about things that matter to the American people. These other, and I'm even talking about some of the cable networks that are on the right, so to speak, on the conservative side.
Right.
They still are hamstrung, and their hands are tied because they get paid by advertisers, principally the pharmaceutical markets,
right.
and maybe some of these other big corporations. And those big corporations, they don't want them talking about election integrity. They don't want them talking about, whether or not you got to, take the jab. I mean, your health, a person's health issues are their own damn business. I don't care if somebody took the jab or not. So I'm very cautious about anything that denies a person the ability to be able to listen to something,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of overseas media, frankly, for me, because I'm very interested in the world that's happening around, outside the United States of America. So I listen to a lot of foreign news, and I don't want our government to suddenly say, well, you can't listen to, India Today or Sky News Arabia or Russia Today or BBC or some of these other, some of these other outlets. I want to be able to listen to all of them.
Right. And I agree with you on that. It's just, it feels very weaponized. I think that's the frustration out here with the public. And I know my time is limited and you're getting ready to have to go to the next thing. I have one more thing for you. And I know a lot of people have talked about who's the BP going to be, and I'm not going to ask you about that. But people talk about who's going to come after Donald Trump. And I'm going to submit to you, I think you would be an excellent person to fill that role down the road. We need somebody that knows where the bodies are buried, that would, without fear, stand up for this Constitution. Would you ever consider a life in politics like that?
After everything I've been through,
yeah,
with these political SOBs, Jeffrey,
right?
Here's what I would say to your great question. And you see it in the movie, because I do talk about it in the movie, about understanding the process to be asked to be in positions like that. My life is a life of service. That's all I know. I mean, I was born on an Army base. I used to hang out with my dad when he was a sergeant in the Army. I was old enough to where he would drag me around to some of the things that he did in the Army, when we lived in Germany, and then when we came back to the States. And I've always, I always knew that I was going to go into the military. I didn't know whether I was going to go into the Army, Marine Corps, or whatever, but I always knew that was what I was going to do. And then I did, and then I stayed in, and I rose to the levels I rose to. My life is, and what I understand really well is service to country, right. And I know what we're facing, so I can't give up. I'm just not. But I will tell you, Jeffrey. First, thanks for asking that question. Thanks for having me on to your audience. But I will tell you that I will not give up on this country. I will not. I will continue to serve until my last dying breath. And there are some on the progressive left that wish that happened. They wish that on me. So, too bad. I'll continue to be a moving target.
There you go. All right. Well, listen, thank you for taking the time to be on the air today. God bless you in your travels and the continued premiere of this movie. We're going to show the trailers and tell people about it and where they can buy it. And just appreciate you being here.
Thank you. And make sure everybody out there, please do say a prayer for our team as we travel around the country, because, it's an interesting time for us to be out here. So God bless you, Jeffrey. Thank you very much. And look forward to talking to you again.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. General Mike Flynn. Wow. Just an amazing patriot. And I'm just going to say this, I don't know many people that would have gone through what he's been through and would stand back up and be traveling this country, talking about what he's talking about. Now I'm going to tell you, there was a little mix up today, and we thought this interview was at 3:00 Eastern. About 10 minutes prior, I got a call from his assistant. We were going to do it, an hour earlier at 2 p.m. Eastern. So I kind of had to rush together, but I want to show you some things. And in order for me to do that, you're going to have to give me a minute to, to get it pulled up here. But one thing is, I want to let you know that this movie, let me get this up on the screen. This movie is called Flynn, Deliver the Truth, Whatever the Cost. And if you hang on, I think what I'm going to do, the best thing to probably do is just go to a website. So hang on a minute. Let me do that. And there is a website. It's flynnmovie.com. So hang on. Let's get that up here. And let's see. There we go. Now you got me back here. Sorry about that. So let me get this up here, and I think it tells everywhere. Yeah, there you go. All right. So you can get this movie right now anywhere you can get a movie. It's on iTunes, YouTube, Salem, Amazon, Walmart, just about anywhere you buy movies or stream movies, you can get this. And I'm just going to tell you, truly, I meant what I said to General Flynn on the air a minute ago. I did not know the full extent of the story, of what he went through. And I think America needs to know the details that are in this movie. And I appreciate that he was brave enough to stand up and, tell this story in full, because there was an impact here, not just on him, but it was on his entire family. And that's happening not just to the high-profile people like General Flynn. It's happening, like we talked about during that interview, it's happening to normal, everyday Americans now, where the FBI is kicking down your door. Laura Logan, if you followed her on Twitter, she's covered some of this on, some of her podcasts where the FBI is literally kicking the door down, of soccer moms, because they didn't like something they said at a PTA meeting. And I tell you what, we've got a really, really, really serious problem, when our, the biggest law enforcement agency in the land, is kicking down the doors of regular everyday Americans. And like we mentioned on that interview, the 11 Christians, I think it was in Nashville, that have been charged now, for standing outside of an abortion clinic and praying. Last time I checked, we got freedom of speech, and, praying would be in that category. And certainly somebody that's praying is not hurting anybody. So we've got to get sense back into our country. And so I asked General Flynn some of the things that I did. What do we do? What do we need to do as a country? Not only to get rid of the lawfare that's going on, but just what are we going to do to get where we don't have government that's out of control? And we're going to have to solve this as a country. I think it's going to take great leaders to do it. I think Donald Trump can be one of those leaders. I think General Flynn can be one of those leaders. And if you hang on here, I'm actually looking for a trailer. And like I said, they threw that on me at the last minute, and I may not be able to, pull this together and get it done. Let me just take a look here. Let's see. Because I'd really like to at least get one episode up here for you guys to watch. But we may not make it. But anyway, go to flynnmovie.com, FLYNN movie, MOBIE.com. Check this movie out. You need to know about it. I just think it's important for the public to really be informed about what happened here. So anyway, it was an honor to have General Flynn. I appreciate you joining me here today on the Zoo Podcast. I'm Jeffrey Sisk. We will see you again soon.
Let freedom ring. Let all say, let's stand up from sea and sea. And live on and on. United we are proud, free and strong. Let freedom ring across America. Let freedom ring across